Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. Month of Cheshvan, we're learning Leilui Nishmat Bat Yefega Bas Yisrael and Leilui Nishmat Levi Ben Yosef, and for the Refuah Shlema of Eliza Chana Bas Naomi and Shoshana Yona Bas Edo. And the week is sponsored by the Wolfson family, Leilui Nishmas Avraham Mordechai Ben Yosef. May his neshama have an aliyah. All right, if we could please give these pages out. Thank you. It's been a while since we've had this shiur, between the Chagim and other things happening, but it's always good to get back, to jump right back in. And I'll try to remind everyone, while I'm reminding myself also, the inyan of the last thing that we basically spoke about in this shiur, that is emphasizing the holiness, the kedusha, the role that's so desperately needed, always, now more than ever, in the world of tefillat נשים, of women's davening. We have so many different examples, we have so many things to look at, and we're slowly climbing into the heart of this sefer by the Biala Rebbe. The last thing we learned was, lo tira lביתה משלג, כי כל ביתה לבוש שנים. Does anyone remember that? Lo tira lביתה משלג. Shaleg, we learned, was the klipa of Amalek. Amalek comes, asher korcha baderech. They come to make you cold. And the klipa of Sheleg, in the Kabbalistic terminology, is always related to Amalek, because they come and try to freeze you from your emunah, to freeze you from believing in the hashgacha pratis in our lives. But a woman, lo tira lביתה משלג, she has no reason to have any fear from Sheleg, from this klipa of Amalek, because the warmth of a woman, or the warmth that's so evident and that's found so deeply in the heart of Bnot Yisrael, Amalek has nothing on it. So the pasuk says, lo tira lביתה משלג. As long as you remember who you are, don't worry. The house is going to be okay as well. Lo tira lביתה משלג. כי כל ביתה לבוש שנים, because a woman has been able to clothe her children with the proper protective gear from the klipa of Amalek itself as well. So lo tira lביתה משלג, כי כל ביתה לבוש שנים. Because the koach that the mother has, what she does in the home, is that she provides those essential garments for her children, for her kinderlich as well. If they just look at her, learn from her, breathe her air of dvekut, then it's a removal of an anxiety that many people have in terms of, oh my God, am I messing up my children? How much am I messing them up? What are they picking up from me? And what am I exposing them to? When a woman's tuned into the pnimius of her avodat Hashem and her role in this world, the result is lo tira lביתה משלג. She has no reason to be scared at all that the klipa of Amalek can come and enter into the house. You can't say that about a man. This is a Torah, that's mamish, this is a Torah for a woman. A man's whole experience with Amalek and fighting that battle is very, very different. It's a very different battle. But the battle with Amalek, when it comes to women, we already spoke about that. So that was the last thing we spoke about. What we're going to be seeing today, to help us understand deeper this whole teaching of tefillah, of women's davening, is a word. It's based on a word that we have to make sure we don't just know, we just don't understand it on a translational level, but in a pnimius way. And that is, as you see on the top, l'isha yesh koach הבחנה מיוחד. What would you say the word הבחנה means? Discernment. Discernment? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's one. What else? להבחין. What is להבחין? To diagnose, to observe, to distinguish.
Distinguish, yeah.
Does distinguish stem? I think so, distinguish. Now what's so important about the art of distinguishing? Distinguishing what? There's a bracha. What's that? Your ratzon and Hashem's ratzon. That's the ultimate goal. You know, I've been to so many, I don't know what it is this year, already from the beginning of the year, I've been to so many weddings. Been to so many different weddings. And there's a bracha I try to always give the Chatan and Kala, because I think it's a very fundamental blessing in everyone's life, but especially in a home that's about to be, the process of the binyan should be adayad. So I try to say it all the time, and I don't always remember if I did. I don't know if I said it yesterday, but when someone has the ability to care about that which is important and to lavchin between what's important and not put kochot and things that aren't important, they're already way, way, way ahead of the game. That the Ikar is really Ikar, and the tafel is really tafel. Tafel means not important, right? Can you pass one page up? Thank you. So if a person has the ability to have that bracha in their life, that the important is important, and the not important is not important, what a bracha that is. Because when we think about how many areas do how much koach, this is a good exercise, how much koach, obviously this is more on an emotional level, how much strength do we give to things that aren't really important? It's not that they're tuma, that of course, but that just aren't important. But we invest so much energy into things that don't really matter, and they're not the things that we need to put our kishkas into. And then think about, well, how many things do I put my kishkas into? What is it that I'm dedicating all of my kochot to? A woman's ability to distinguish between important and not important is something innate. It's something that was basically, like we're going to see right now, that came within the creation of a woman. Again, not a void you could say by men. To be able to distinguish between what's important and what's not important is something that already exists in the koach hanashi. We're going to try to discover this, how this came about, and see a lot of different examples. But the whole purpose of what we're learning today, and every shiur, is to understand how this relates to davening, to women's tefillah. And this will come up as we go along. I think it's a very special learning, and not too complicated, but very mechuvan el hamatara, very focused. לאישה יש כוח הבחנה מיוחד. ונתבאר שמקום האישה ביהדות, this we learned already, a woman's place in Yiddishkeit היא למעלה ממדרגת האיש, is much higher than where the man finds himself and where he starts off from. וביאור עומק עניין מעלת נשים הוא משום שנשים יש להם כוחות נעלים ומיוחדים ועליהן עומד הבית היהודי. The whole Jewish home stands upon the special and significant kochot that were placed within a woman already within בריאת העולם. כמו שאנו מוצאים כוח מיוחד שיש בנשים להבחין בפנימיות של כל דבר. As we find, and we'll see, with examples we see today, and many things that I'm sure will come up for you, that we see a special koach that women have to be able to, now to say distinguish doesn't work really. להבחין בפנימיות של כל דבר means, sorry?
To notice it, like dissect.
To notice and dissect, yeah, maybe even dissect is better. To notice and dissect and to be laser beam focused on the pnimius of everything. כמו שאמרו בגמרא נידה, ויבן השם אלוקים את הצלע. So the Gemara says, when it says that God built the צלע, the rib, right? מלמד שנתן הקדוש ברוך הוא בינה יתירה באישה יותר מבאיש. This the Gemara says, that God placed בינה יתירה באישה יותר מבאיש. What's בינה? Well, chokhmah is more wisdom. What's bina?
Understand.
So intuition, bina, Rashi even helps us one time, and he says that Moshe Rabbeinu was looking, when he starts talking back to Am Yisrael, and he says, I was looking for really, havu lachem anashim chachamim nevonim veyeduim. So navon, from the word bina, means sheyicholim lehavin davar mitoch davar. Sheyicholim lehavin davar mitoch davar. I don't really know how to say that in English. Lehavin davar mitoch davar.
Between the lines.
Probably as close as we'll get. Not just because of your name, but Bina Yetira, more, right? That this bina, more bina. Man also has the ability to להבין דבר מתוך דבר, but there's something innate in a woman that has this havana that's much more pnimi than a man. To dissect this would be a whole nother shiur, exactly how this works out with the tzelem. I'm going to keep on going. ובגמרא ברכות אמרו, אישה מכרת באורחים. Have you ever heard this statement before? אישה מכרת באורחים. A woman has a very, very clear way of recognizing an oreach, a guest, and what their needs are. And what their needs are. We'll learn this in a second. שיש לאנשים כוח הבחנה מיוחד שאין לאנשים, שכן מסתדר בפשטות, שדבר זה שאישה מכרת אינו דווקא באורחים, we're going to see this is not just when it comes to guests, אלא בכל עניין, rather in anything. Any matter, כי אישה יכולה לראות דברים נסתרים שהאנשים אינם רואים. A man and a woman can be looking at the same thing and see two completely different things.
Like finding something in the refrigerator.
Very good example, yes.
Yeah.
What, a man what? Does not.
Never
Show
find
in
it.
our house
Find it.
that the males
It's not
do
there.
not find it, and the females open the door, and we immediately
Right,
find
friend them.
I would say that's true about everything in my life, not just the refrigerator. Everything. This ability to see things, it's not that you're, so I want to go back to the example. A man and a woman are looking at something and they see two completely different things. It's not that someone sees black and someone sees white. It's that the woman sees black and green and red and purple and, you know what I mean? You see a michlol of things much more than what meets the eye of the man. It's just a way of, it's nothing. I'm not, again, this is very important, this is not a man-bashing shiur. Bemet, it's not. It's just the ability to, it's an attempt to understand the koach of the biנה יתירה that was placed within a woman. And these are things, these are very important traits that I'm sure you all know already, but it's important to be aware of in the context of tefillah. Now, why would it be important to have this inyan of deeper seeing dafka when it comes to davening? It's very clear. Sometimes you come and you talk to Hashem, and you can get so lost in so many things that don't really seem to be important to you. But somehow that's what ends up on the plate of the tefillah. And by a woman, koach הבחנה מיוחד, to get to the target, to get to the עיקר inyan, to focus in, to zoom in on what exactly is needed in the world through my koach tefillah. What is needed right now? This is a bracha. This is like, I'm not trying to toot your horn because you didn't do anything to get this. This was just the way Hashem designed the creation of the world. Yes?
Funny that after that mitzvah would be mitzvah she'azman grama. Like if there's that koach.
So that connects to the beginning of our learning, whether the tefillas נשים falls under the category of a mitzvah saseh she'azman grama. I remember we were starting to learn about that. Nachon. Interesting. Tov tzarich hayun. We'll get back to that. Okay, so the third paragraph. בדבר זה שהנשים יכולות לראות בעיני שכלן, which is a very beautiful terminology, what he just said over here. This thing that women can see through the eyes of their seichel, דברים שנסתרים מעיניהם של אנשים, things that are quite often concealed from the eyes of men, רואים אנו בחוש, we see this literally. כמו שמצאנו אצל שרה אימנו, שדרשה מאברהם אבינו לגרש את בן האמה מביתו. We're going to see this next Shabbos. What did Sarah tell Avram Avinu? She sees these two kids. She sees Yishmael and she sees Yitzchak. Avram Avinu didn't know on his own that Yishmael needs to be removed from the house. It's a very weird thing. Avram Avinu, Avamon Goyim, the first Yid, first one to come into a brit, such a covenant with Hashem. Hashem makes these covenants with him, and yet Avram Avinu, his eyesight is different than Sarah Imeinu's. Sarah is able to look at the situation, understand through the world of her innate sense of chinuch, what needs to happen right now. And she's the one that ends up telling Avram Avinu, this kid's got to get out of here. Garish na'et ben ha'ama. It's interesting just to bring it to our to our situation. It's like we're still acting. We still haven't really listened to Mama Sarah. Like we still have not listened to Sarah Imeinu. This is like the basic, like this is going to be something that may be hard for, by now probably none of you, but maybe one of you or two of you. Sarah Imeinu said, Garesh na'et ben ha'ama, not Rabbi Kahana. You understand that, right? The Torah wrote this. It's written in the Torah by Sarah Imeinu. That one of the first interactions she has as a mother raising these two children, even though Hagar is there as well, is that Garesh na'et ben ha'ama. Now, what would be your experience how would you face it if Avram Avinu said back to Sarah Imeinu, no, you'll see, they have to figure out how to get along. Don't you kind of want him to say that? The soft, peaceful place in us doesn't want, no one wants to hear that? Come on, it exists within us. Come on, no, we could work it out. It could be worked out. Gamarnu, right? So why does it seem like such a far out concept when we use the most basic word that's needed today to deal with our difficulty in Eretz Yisrael, that they must be exiled, chayavim legaresh otam, that they have to be, he's sounding fanatic again. Sorry, women, Sarah Imeinu said this. Because Sarah Imeinu has a koach abchana miyuchad. She looks at the heart of something. She sees with her Bina yetira what could be and what simply can't be.
So when you tell you got leave to be there.
Sorry?
So when you tell you got leave to be there, that's quite
L'chaim, yeah. So he explains this here, again, second line, כמו שמצאנו אצל שרה אימנו, שדרשה מאברהם אבינו לגרש את בן העמה מביתו, כי ידעה להבחין בפנימיות נפשו של ישמעאל. She was able, now what was the word, Ariella, that you said in the beginning?
disarmed.
This is probably where this could really be shayach. She was able to discern and gaze deeply into the nefesh of Yishmael. It wasn't just outside behavior that she was seeing, like we usually learn about the problems that were happening in the Avinu household, right? Whether between Yitzchak and Yishmael. She's just looking at the nefesh, the tzura of the nefesh of this kid, and says like, this and this is kilayim. This nefesh Ishmaeli and this nefesh Yehudi is kilayim. This is not meant to be raised in the same house. You could love each other when everyone knows their own jurisdiction, when everyone knows their own boundaries. You have to love them. They're part of the world. But they have no chance of being loved the way that their pnimius nefesh, not chitzonius nefesh. Pnimius nefesh is longing to feel love in the world. They don't get it for sure from their parents or anything like that. They could get it from Yidden, but not while they're trying to kick you out of your house and burn your life up. Sarah Imeinu sees the pnimius nefesh of Yishmael, and she tells Avram Avinu, because she knows the pnimius of the nefesh, Ma she'Avram Avinu ha'adam ha'gadol ba'anakim lo ra'ah. As great as Avram Avinu was, the giant of all giants, the beginning, he didn't see this. He couldn't see this. V'af HaKadosh Baruch Hu hiskim ima. And God listens to Sarah. And what does he say? You're right. You're right. כמו שאמר לאברהם אבינו עליו השלום, כל אשר תאמר אליך שרה, שמע בקולה. Now whatever Avram Avinu is told by Sarah Imeinu, listen to her voice. This is what, there's a lot of chassidus on this deal, and there's one word here that should really open up a lot of gates for us. What does it say? That he should listen to what? To her voice. What could have been said? Her words. What's the hafchana over here? Why do you think Hashem said listen to her voice? Pay more attention to what? To the tone. To the tone between the words. Pay attention to what's going on that's much deeper than the actual words that she's saying. כל אשר תאמר אליך שרה, שמע בקולה. Listen to her voice. The voice, the tone can't lie. Words sometimes get in the way of things. But the tone that's emanating from the kishkas of a woman is divrei Elokim Chaim, is the pnimiyut of everything. So too, if we go back now to understanding maybe tefillat נשים, you could say that the kol, the voice that's coming from the woman's words during davening, that's the kol, that's markia shchakim, that shakes the heavens. Maybe not as much the words. Maybe the words are more a man's thing. I don't know. But because I'm just trying to learn out what is the Torah telling us by dafka choosing the word shma bekola and not necessarily shma bedibura or bedvarea. But whatever it is, Hashem says, follow her lead. She knows what she's talking about. She has the most powerful koach הבחנה. That's by Sarah Imeinu. Yeah.
Just to play devil's advocate kind of thing, like it could be just because he was Abraham's son versus Sarah, who's like a step removed from Ishmael, you know.
For sure, no. 100% that could be. Definitely. I mean, that would seem to be I think the most logical explanation to the situation at hand, 100%.
According to what we're learning is that even if it was her son, let's say, she sees things differently than he did. Like he just can't see the same way.
Right, so I'm sure she saw Yitzchak differently than the way Avram Avinu saw Yitzchak too, 100%.
Same thing with Rivka, the same.
We're going to get to it. The next paragraph. No, it's good. You're stark. One second. Sarah, yeah.
Maybe Adam didn't respond back and he listened to her right away because he knew it. He just needed to be told it. Because it was his son, so he needed somebody from the outside to tell.
Because if he came
He
to...
sort of had a more
Right.
emotional connection because it was his son, so then he just needed to be told. And
Yeah,
he's
fair.
like, yeah, it's true, like I knew that.
Right, I just needed to come from you. What a tikkun that is for husbands if they hear eitzos from their wives and they said, I knew that, I just really needed to hear it from you. V'chen matzinu, so now, Dalia, you see the next paragraph, V'chen matzinu etzel Rivka Imeinu. We see by Rivka Imeinu, ki av she'esav haya tzavua, ve'istir et ma'asav. Esav was, tzavua means two-faced, right? And he hid his real actions, Esav. כמו שנאמר, ויהי עשיו איש יודע ציד. What does this mean? That it was a man that knew hunting? שפירש רש"י יודע ציד, he knew how to hunt and to cheat his father with his mouth. לצוד ולרמות את אביו בפיו. And what are the examples that we know? I feel so guilty.
Maser and salt.
How do you tithe salt? Other shilas that were like, what are you talking about? What do you even care about these things? The Midrashim fill in a lot of gaps for us and help us understand. On the days that he'd be asking these shilas to Yitzchak, he had just come back from murder and rape and horrible things. Not to, I always feel guilty about this, but when I was younger, in high school probably, so I checked out from whatever was going on in the classroom, kimat all the time. Not because of, I don't think it was because of like ADD or things like that, but just, I was already in a different world. I was reading these, I would read these, I would put these magazines, these booklets that would come out from Rav Shlomo about his life because he had just died. All these, anything I got my hands on it, I would be learning these stories and reading these Torahs, but I always didn't, I wanted to keep some kind of level of like showing, so I had a timer that every like 13 minutes, I had this little timer on my stop. It was one of these stopwatches that had, remember those that have all those buttons on it, right? Like a calculator and a stopwatch. So I had like 13-minute timer to myself to listen to the last thing that the teacher said and then ask a question on that last word.
Oh my goodness.
You're outside. Did I tell you this? You're outside to know how to hunt. So, it's disgusting to say this. It's like feels like what he said, Bechina of Esav, right? לצוד ולרמות את אביו בפיו. He knew if I ask a question like this, my Abba will think I actually care about anything that he cares about, and he'll have so much nachas from me. Manipulation. ואצל יצחק אבינו נאמר, what does it say about יצחק? ויאהב יצחק את עשיו כי ציד בפיו. This is actually, Esav was like, wow, Yitzchak's like, I love this kid. כי ציד בפיו. He comes back, he knows how to hunt. פירוש רש"י ומדרשו בפיו של עשיו, שיצד אותו ומרמהו בדבריו. Again, like we said before, the hunting was through the mouth. Hunting meaning hunting and manipulating and turning something over. אך אצל רבקה נאמר, Rivka doesn't fall for any of that. By the Torah saying by Rivka, ורבקה אוהבת את יעקב, she doesn't get involved into any of this. Now Rivka's koach הבחנה continues throughout the whole story of her life. Do you know something fascinating? We only find Yitzchak and Rivka talking one time to each other. Actually, 2 words that Rivka says to Yitzchak, their whole marriage in the Torah. It's an interesting thing. Yaakov is filled with conversations with Rachel and Leah. Avram and Sarah, I mean, in our parsha we have, Imrina achoti atid, when we have things, throughout their lives, but by Yitzchak and Rivka, just one thing. And the one thing she says at the end of Parshat Toldot, she says the words katzti b'chayai, which means if Yankele, if our son Yaakov, doesn't have a world where he could find a zivug hagun, because here she already saw what Esav was doing with the women he was bringing home, or leaving to rot in the fields, literally. So she had such a fear in her heart that Yaakov Avinu would never have what he really needs. She's so much kshurat to the nefesh of Yaakov. She knows the nefesh of Yaakov. She knows the nefesh of Esav. So the only thing we find in the Torah that Rivka says to Yitzchak, I believe it's towards the end of Toldot, that she says, katzti b'chayai, meaning, understand, Yitzchak, you've given me a great life and everything, and I'm thankful, and I don't regret jumping on the chamor, the horse, whatever, and joining with Eliezer that brought me to you, and it's been amazing. But you have to understand, if Yaakov Avinu, if our son doesn't have the proper setting to find the zivug that's right for him, then what did I come into this world for? Katzti b'chayai, my life means nothing to me. And then they come to the decision that, you're gonna get out of here. You're not gonna have Esav on your neck. You're gonna get out of here. You're gonna go run away somewhere else. First, you're gonna learn Torah for many years in Yeshiva Shem Ba'ever, and then you're gonna go to my brother-in-law. And he'll figure, we'll figure it out from there. But she has this koach הבחנה, Rivka. He continues over here, talking about Rivka. הסברה נותנת כי כמו שניסה עשיו לרמות את יצחק, just like Yitzchak Esav tried to fool his father, כמו כן בוודאי ניסה לרמות אף את רבקה אימנו, כי עשיו לא בא אלא לרמות. Esav comes to this world to trick, to see who will fall prey to his sheker, to his hunting, the hunting of the mouth. And he sees, I tried with mommy, nothing, doesn't go anywhere. I tried with Abba, it works. Let me just stick to Abba. שבחיצוניותו הוא נראה כצדיק. On the outside, the Kotzker Rebbe used to always say, Esav wore a shtreimel. Not the way the little Midrash says illustrated for us when we were younger, because the way the little Midrash illustration, if you remember it, they had this big picture of Yitzchak, of Esav, when he met with Yaakov back in Parshat Vayishlach, right? When they finally have a reunion. And there it looks like someone that's like a vicious beast with a few teeth and gory and everything. No, sorry, illustrators. It's not how it was. Esav's whole mitziyut was one of an illusion, of being fake. So he wore a shtreimel because he, on the outside, was trying to hunt you any way, shape, or form. And this outside he looked like a tzaddik, ובפנימיותו הוא רשע מרושע. And on the inside he's a total rasha. כמו שאמרו חז"ל שבאותו היום שמכר את הבכורה, that same day that he sold the birthright, the Midrash tells us, עבר 5 עבירות. He transgressed with 5 different averos. כמו שאמרו במדרש, 5 עבירות עבר עשיו הרשע באותו היום. בא על נערה מאורסה, he took an engaged girl and raped her. הרג את הנפש, killed someone. כפר בתחיית המתים. He made some statements regarding the fact that there is no resurrection of the dead. כפר בעיקר, that literally means that he denied the existence of God. וביזה את הבכורה, and he degraded the birthright. אך רבקה ידעה מיהו עשיו בפנימיותו, ולכן אהבה את יעקב. Rivka knew who Esav was, therefore she loved Yaakov. I know it's still hard to understand this because indifferent to Sarah and Yishmael, Esav was the biological son of Rivka. Now her ability to not fall prey to her son, her biological son, is a very, very, very big thing. Do you think she loved Esav?
It was been tied to the Sunday shiur. There's got to be some sort of...
Ahava tivit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though she could detect that before he even came into this world, he was getting wild every time they passed by. When he was in the womb, remember when she came to complain? It's because every time that Rashi tells us she would pass by a Bais Midrash, Yaakov Avinu was having a farbrengen, and every time she passed by Beit Avodah Zarah, Esav would be the one that would having a farbrengen inside. But
she didn't know that it was twins at that time. That's why she went to...
Right, so once, I guess, the moment that she knew that it was twins, was she then from that moment already able to discern and distinguish between the two? Because it seems that from birth, like this whole inyan of even the name of calling him Yaakov and the heel and everything, this seems like from birth already, she has this amazing koach abchana to understand where I'm putting my, what am I putting my chips in? Of course, we have the world of biblical criticism that Bezrat Hashem, they should be vanished from the face of the earth, but they have the chutzpah to say, if Rivka would have put more effort and love into Esav, then maybe he wouldn't have turned out the way he did. You think the Torah doesn't know that? So, what is the Torah telling us through the eyes of Rivka? That's really the shaila. What is the Torah telling us over here? And I think it's not for me to answer, it's definitely more for you to answer, but it connects very much back to this inyan of Ikar and Tafil. Things that are important versus things that are important. What did Rivka understand that was the most important thing in the world to happen? 2 things. 1, the bracha has to go to Yaakov and not to Esav. Why? Because with her Bina Yetira, with this deep level of La'avin davar mitoch davar, she understood that if, God forbid, that blessing would have ended up in Esav's hand, it would have been the end of what began by Avram Avinu. Those brachas going into the wrong hands would have been the end. Further, what's the other thing we know about Rivka that Pashut, it had to be? What we said before, Yaakov Avinu's shidduch situation. These are things Rivka had a havchana, she knew, my kid needs this. And maybe if we were just stam akidu, offer our own aniu dati, she couldn't say like that about Esav anything. She knew his nefesh so clearly that she said, like, what all this kid really needs is to be tied up in a room and not go and hurt people. Maybe that's what she said, I don't know. But it's not that she didn't see Esav. She clearly saw Esav, like even maybe deeper than the way that Sarah saw Ishmael, because Esav was her own child, yes.
It's interesting that Sarah and Rivka both saw that both these children have to be separated, but Sarah made Yishmael leave,
right,
and Rivka made
Yaakov leave,
and then by separating.
Very interesting.
I never thought about it.
But let's stick on this for a second. So why is that? Why do you think that is? Let's think about the husbands over here in this situation. Avram Avinu, maybe Rivka knew that she could never get Yitzchak to really see who Esav is, because he was already too intertwined with all the years of being cheated.
Maybe that's why it says that he was like blind. Like maybe all these years I took it very like translation, like whatever it says, but maybe it's that he was just blinded to the truth.
That could be. It could be, yeah.
Thought about it that way. I just think
No,
it's
but that's
interesting
very
that
interesting.
you can influence somebody by keeping them close. You can influence somebody by
Oh,
directing
yeah.
them on the right path.
I mean, these are conversations I have with parents all the time regarding
So this-
pnimiyot.
Which is fascinating. I thought about it
Yeah.
that way, that the same
Wow.
different situations. But just-
Nachon, nachon. The shaila that comes up a lot with parents about sending kids out, in the beginning of the conversation, it's always like, what would be best for them? And I realize halfway through the conversation, the real question they're asking is, what would be best for the other kids that are still at home? These are not, there's no blanket statement, there's no like
It
answer
shows you
here.
that there's not what-
Ye-
that there's more than one
Nachon, nachon. That's I think what you're pointing at, which is, but who knows that? Right. An example, mamash, I had like a week after the beginning of the school year, this thing came up. The mother knew exactly what was needed. It took the father for the kid to go through another week of hell in the place they're in, to then listen, be like an Avram Avinu chassid, and then listen to his wife and follow through. Listen, it's not always the situation, but it seems to be that when people are plugged in to their own nefesh and neshama, that's how it maps, that's how it pans out, you know. Rivka knows this. Rivka has this koach abchana. Ach Rivka,
She
yeah.
didn't tell Yitzchak. They didn't have that kind of relationship also. Like, it was like a very, he was so introverted and
Beta.
they didn't have an open, it didn't sound like they had an open communication.
Well, again, it can maybe not an open verbal communication, but alavai, that people can connect to their spouses 1/1,000,000th of the way Yitzchak and Rivka connected to each other. What's the first experience Rivka has upon seeing Yitzchak? She falls off the camel. Why? What was going on?
She saw the whole thing.
Because according to one medrash, he just came out of Gan Eden. There's a few years missing in Yitzchak's lifeline, from the time of Akedas Yitzchak, and then when he goes out to daven mincha, that famous Vayitze Yitzchak Lasuach Basadeh. There's a few opinions where he was. Some would say that after that experience, to be in this world is not shayach. So some say he went up to Gan Eden. Some say he went to go learn in the yeshiva's Shem Ba'ever. But whatever it is, it doesn't matter.
I think he went to Hagar.
To?
He went to Hagar. He went to the
Well, he goes to, he definitely does that at a certain point, because he wants to bring her back to marry Yitira, to marry his Abba, Nachon. But wherever he was and whatever was happening, her soul connection to Yitzchak was, she knew this is who she meant to be now, Nachon. I mean, listen, he was 40 and she was 3. So, maybe that's a little bit of a, you remember? He was around 40 and she was like 3. Maybe he was 42 already by then. Whatever it is.
It is very hard to think of the idea of a mother rejecting her biological child, especially because when we learn about the Ben Sora Moreh, the Gemara tells us it never existed.
Mhm.
Like, it never came to the parent never had to reject their child.
Nachon.
So it's very hard to wrap your head around.
Of course. And yet the Torah still believes that we could, because if it didn't, it wouldn't share it like this. There's no happy ending with Rivka and Esav. There's no happy ending with Esav bichlal. But the learning, what I'm hoping we extract from this is not we go home and figure out, really start working with our Bina Yetira and start noticing, Yaakov. That's Esav. That's not chas v'shalom. It's not and then act on that. It's more to trust your innate ability to lavchin ben emet l'sheker, ben ikar l'tafel. That's the purpose of even looking into the lives of our avot and imaot to try to understand what to do with this. Because no one's saying, I've never heard anyone that came to the conclusion based on the Parshias and Bereshis to excommunicate a kid based on what they learned in the Torah. And yet, of course, it's hard. I can't.
They didn't excommunicate him. They
Well, in one case, one kid, like you pointed out, one kid is thrown out.
That wasn't her, right?
And right,
It wasn't the Jewish child.
it just right, but it's so very good what you're saying and what you brought up, because as much as you think that it would make sense for Rivka to convince Yitzchak to kick out Esav, what's the end of Rivka's life? Who does she live with? She doesn't even have Yaakov. All she's left with is Esav in the house. Because she was living for Netzach. So maybe we could say like this is actually a Gewalt. Maybe we could say that what the Torah doesn't mention is that Rivka ends up spending the rest of her life with the boy that for her represented everything that she isn't. But she was willing to do that because deep, deep down in her heart, she still had an achrayus for him.
He probably needed her more.
Oh, well, he for sure needed her more,
There's
although...
the midrash that
That's
says
why
that
she
he even
kept
came to
close.
her levaya. And that's why Yitzchak wasn't, like, when they were looking, when we don't know where Yitzchak is, and he wasn't at Merat Machpelah when Rivka was buried, they say because Yitzchak knew that Esav was going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Because he had some sort of kibud to be there for the burial.
Nachon, he on the outside, he had a lot of things that looked very geschmack. Maybe you're saying that he had a hitorut in his heart at the end of his life. Could be. But Rivka's koach abchana to understand what do I put my kishkas into, all has to do with Netzach Yisrael, with the eternity of Am Yisrael. That's what we're learning from the story about Rivka. But it's still just fascinating to think about that. Maybe her like reconciliation, or I don't like to use this terminology because it sounds so like we understand these things, but maybe it's that a mama's a mama no matter what. Sarah wasn't a mama for Yishmael, so it's much easier to say that. But your mama's a mama, and therefore, even though she knew where to invest and what to focus on, and she sends him out, she's at home with the other kid.
She never gave up on him. Well, she kept him close because she maybe was
Right.
Some people
Yitzchak
were well.
clearly never gave up on him. In Ishbitzer, they speak a lot about that. Yitzchak believed that if he was able to implement a certain midah into Esav, he could be like Yaakov. And he was working on it his whole life to put a certain midah into him, because he believed so much in the nefesh of his, if it's coming from him, he's looking at this kid, he's saying, this is Avram Avinu's grandson. But that didn't end up being the thing, because he becomes, Esav essentially is the head of a whole ummah, of a whole nation, of Edom. He comes and completely changes it over. Yes.
Well, I was just thinking that, it sort of makes a lot of sense that the kid that the mother is the least identifies with personality-wise is the kid that is pursuing that relationship because they feel choser.
Mm-hmm.
And you see it over and over.
Yeah. Nachon. So he ends off here and he says like this, Umitba'er, what we learn from all this third paragraph, sheyesh leisha koach הבחנה מיוחד שאין לאיש. What we're basically learning from all this is that a woman has koach הבחנה, the ability, an innate power to identify something as what it really is. ומטעם זה, it's for this reason, הטילה התורה את עיקר מצוות החינוך על האימהות יותר מן האבות, כמו שהתבאר. As much as we'll see the father as a shiur to teach the children, the Iker mitzvah of chinuch was placed on the mothers, not on the father, more than the fathers, as we will explain later on. Why? I mean, it's very easy to understand this now because a mama knows what I need better than, or easier, more than what a father knows what I need. This is something that was Hashem placed within the Bria. It doesn't mean a father doesn't want the best for its kid, or it doesn't mean the father doesn't want to help and add v'chule, but that the havchana, the diagnosis, that's really how it's used a lot today in the medical field, ma yivchun, right? Yivchun means diagnosis. Assessment. Assessment, so how do you say diagnosis?
Abchana.
No, not diagnosis.
Abchana.
The same family.
It's all
Man.
synonyms.
It's all the same. This is where the mother has these she just has it. וסיבת הדבר, and the reason for this, כיוון שהאימהות מכירות בעין בוחנת את פנימיות נפש ילדיהן ומבינות את צרכיהם. Because a mother has able to know the nefesh of their children in a more intimate way, what does it mean that you know the nefesh of your child? It means that you understand and have a better capability to daven over what they really need. That is the purpose of why we learned this whole parak today. Because if I could have the ability to know what you really need, then my davening is much more direct and it's clear to me what I'm davening for. Men show up to shul, and hopefully with like half an eye open, and we daven and we try to, we get through. Once in a blue moon, the davening really gets through us. A woman comes to shul with her tefillah, even if she comes to minyan, it's a completely different experience of davening than the way that a man davens, which will explain to us in a deeper way separation between sexes during davening. These are things, pnimius, when you want to explain to people, that are asking from a very loving and humble place. The conservative movement had this amazing campaign. I think in the 70s or the early 80s, when it was still like an entity. Today it's bichlal, it's kimat velo. It's not such a strong entity in the States like it used to be, at least when I was growing up. And they had Rabbi Riskin told us this. He said the slogan was, "Families who pray together stay together." That's an amazing marketing tool. No? That's an amazing thing.
Very Christian.
Huh? Very. However,
Right, I'm just picturing like grace before meal.
Yeah.
no, but their thing was, Kilu, if we're gonna come to temple, we'll come to synagogue, but we're together, like that, then Kilu, that'll give koach the kiyum for us to continue. Of course, this was doesn't sound Yiddish, but it sounds very, very tempting to the ears of a modern Jewish family living in the United States in the 70s and 80s. Are you kidding? There's nothing more. Huh?
Everything's equal there.
It was it was already starting back then. But Rabbi Riskin had to remember. I forget what he changed that slogan for Lincoln Square Synagogue. They used something else, but Kilu building off of that still kept things separate. But over here, when we're looking at the need for there to be a separation between men and women in davening, it's very clear. It's two completely different energies going on. Two completely different energies, each one doing their own thing in the right place, 100%. So no pressure, women, but if you have this koach habchana, if this is something that's so strong, innate within you, Am Yisrael is still in a state of somewhat of a confusion, of a daze of, what's going on? What are we putting our energy into? Like, what's kedai? Like we started talking about on Shabbos, are we ready to start rebuild now, or do we still wait, or are we more? Was it post? A lot of bilbulim, but the chochmas nashim and the Bina Yitira is able to discern and to crack through a lot of different things that may seem important, to know what's important, and therefore the tefillah of women today, what an essential piece, if not the cornerstone of the world of davening, that the world is waiting for Am Yisrael to lead, and to show us how to come back to Beit Hashem. I just want to encourage all of you to believe in the way that you daven, to believe in your notion of knowing what's important, what's not important, and Bezrat Hashem open up many, many gates for many other people that they don't even realize that they're waiting to daven. No one ever showed them how to. And they're just waiting for one person to open a gate for them. So Bezrat Hashem, it'll be on you. Smile. It's a good thing. It's a